Hello, I'm James Macquarie, one of the founders at GLAD. This is our Breaking Down Climate Pollution podcast, in which we ask AI to generate a deep dive conversation based on a climate science or policy document that we'd like to learn more about. In this episode, we ask the AI to dive into the European Parliament's new provisional agreement aimed at empowering consumers to make informed, sustainable choices, exploring how the agreement tackles greenwashing, enforcing transparency on eco-friendly claims, and ensuring that terms like green or sustainable are backed by real environmental performance. The discussion also covers how companies will need to outline clear, measurable sustainability goals with third-party verification to keep them accountable. Plus, hear how the agreement addresses product durability and misleading software updates that push unnecessary replacements. Let's dive in.
Hey there, deep diver. Ready for another deep dive?
Always.
We're tackling a provisional agreement from the European Parliament. It's all about giving consumers more power when it comes to sustainability.
Yeah, this agreement is really interesting. There's been a lot of talk about greenwashing lately.
Right, like when you see a product and it's covered in eco-labels and you think, is this for real?
Exactly. And that's what this agreement is trying to address, those misleading environmental claims. It wants to give consumers the information they need to make informed choices.
So it's about bringing more transparency to how companies talk about their products' environmental impact. Where do they even begin with something like that?
Well, the agreement starts by setting some ground rules. It basically says no more unfair commercial practices when it comes to sustainability.
Okay, so no more vague claims. But what about all those buzzwords we see everywhere? Sustainable, eco-friendly, green. Are those still allowed?
Well, the agreement specifically targets those generic terms.
Yeah.
Companies can't just throw them around anymore.
They can't just slap a green leaf on something and call it a day.
Not exactly. They need to be backed up by proof of real environmental performance.
So they have to actually meet specific standards.
Exactly. Think meeting the standards of the EU Eco-label or achieving the highest energy efficiency class.
Okay, so it has to be legit.
Right. It has to be verifiable.
Got it. So no more greenwashing with those broad terms. What about partially sustainable claims? Like, what about those?
Right. This agreement goes beyond just those broad claims. It also wants to prevent companies from misleading consumers by, focusing on one small sustainable aspect while ignoring the bigger picture.
Okay, so what would be an example of that?
Imagine a company claiming its product is sustainable just because the packaging is made from recycled materials.
Okay. Yeah.
Even if the product itself has a huge environmental footprint. This agreement says, no, you can't do that.
You can't just cherry pick one tiny thing.
Exactly.
Okay. What about future claims? Like, I've seen a lot of companies saying we're going to be carbon neutral by 2050 or whatever.
You've hit on another crucial point. The agreement wants to hold companies accountable for those future-focused environmental claims as well.
Okay.
So vague promises, they won't cut it anymore.
What would a company need to show to make it a believable claim?
They would need a concrete plan.
Like a what?
A public and verifiable roadmap. This isn't just some internal document hidden on their website. It's about transparency.
Okay.
Outlining clear objectives, measurable targets, timelines, resources, allocated the works.
Wow, it's like a whole business plan.
It's a detailed business plan for sustainability, and it's open for anyone to scrutinize.
Okay, so real accountability. Even then, how can you be sure they're actually following through?
That's where independent verification comes in. The agreement actually proposes having third-party experts regularly check the progress of these sustainability plans.
Okay.
To make sure everything is on track.
And are these experts independent from the companies?
Absolutely. To avoid any conflicts of interest,
Yeah.
These experts need to be entirely independent for the companies they're auditing.
Okay, so there are checks and balances. But this is a lot about environmental claims. What about other sustainability aspects?
What do you mean?
Like how long a product lasts or if it can be repaired. Do those factor in here?
You're thinking along the right lines. This agreement isn't just about what companies say, but also about how they design and build their products.
Okay.
It takes aim at the issue of premature obsolescence.
That moment when your gadget conveniently breaks down right after the warranty ends?
Exactly.
So how are they addressing this?
For one, It wants to stop companies from withholding information about software updates that could be detrimental to a product's functionality.
You mean like using software updates as a sneaky way to make your old phone seem slow and unusable so you're more likely to buy a new one?
Exactly. This agreement aims to put an end to that.
Wow.
Additionally, it targets companies marketing products as repairable when they're not,
Oh, interesting.
and those who try to push unnecessary replacement parts.
Like ink cartridges and stuff like that.
Exactly. Things designed to keep us on the endless treadmill of buying, buying, buying. Instead, this agreement wants to give consumers more power up front before we even make a purchase.
Oh, okay, now we're talking. What kind of information would be available? Well, for starters, companies would need to clearly tell you if a product comes with a guarantee that's longer than the usual 2 years.
Right.
They're calling it a commercial guarantee of durability. What does that even mean?
It means a producer is guaranteeing their product will keep working as expected under normal use for a specific period.
Okay.
And importantly, this guarantee has to cover the entire product, not just certain parts.
So no more hiding behind vague warranties that only apply to like one tiny screw somewhere inside.
Exactly. The agreement wants to make this crystal clear for consumers, even suggesting a standardized label.
Interesting.
Think of it like those energy efficiency ratings, but for durability.
A durability score.
Yeah.
I like where this is going. What about those software updates we talked about earlier? Will companies have to be upfront about those too?
Absolutely. For anything with digital elements, companies would need to tell you the minimum time they'll support it with software updates.
That's huge. Knowing I won't be pressured into buying a new phone just because the software is outdated,
Right.
that's a game changer. What about repairs? Will it be easier to find information about fixing things instead of tossing them out?
That's the idea. The agreement encourages companies to provide a reparability score based on EU-wide criteria.
Okay.
This would let you quickly compare how easy different products are to fix.
So in the future, we could be looking at durability scores, repairability scores.
Exactly.
It'll be like choosing appliances based on energy efficiency, but for how long they'll last and how easy they are to fix.
Exactly. And even without a standardized score, companies would still need to be transparent about repairs. Think spare part costs and availability, access to repair manuals, and any repair restrictions.
This all sounds like a huge win for consumers, but let's not forget this is just a provisional agreement, right? Is there a chance it won't actually happen?
It still needs to go through the formal adoption process, but
Hmm.
this agreement sends a strong message. It's a clear sign of the EU's commitment to empowering consumers and making the Green Deal a reality.
Speaking of the Green Deal, how does this all fit into the bigger picture of the EU's sustainability goals?
This agreement is a key piece of the puzzle. Remember, the Green Deal aims to make Europe climate neutral by 2050,
Right.
and that requires changing how we consume.
Right. It's not just about big industries reducing emissions. It's about all of us making more sustainable choices.
Exactly. By giving consumers accurate information and cracking down on greenwashing, the EU wants to incentivize all of us to choose more sustainable products.
So it's about making it easier for us to actually vote with our wallets and reward companies that prioritize sustainability. But information alone doesn't always lead to action. How do you see this agreement actually changing how people shop?
Imagine checking a product's durability score, becoming as normal as looking at its energy efficiency rating today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So instead of going for the cheapest option, people might start thinking, this one has a higher durability score. I'll be investing in something that will last.
You got it.
Mhm.
And as consumers become more aware of their right to repair, we might see a comeback of repair shops and a decline in throwaway culture.
Yeah, it's like hitting the refresh button on how we view products. Suddenly, it's not just about the latest features, but about quality, longevity, and sustainability. This could change how companies design and market products in a big way.
Absolutely. It incentivizes companies to make products that last, can be easily repaired, and genuinely minimize environmental impact.
So it's a win-win for consumers and the planet. But we've mainly talked about the positive side. This must also be a pretty big shakeup for companies.
Definitely. The agreement makes it clear. Greenwashing is no longer acceptable. Companies can't make vague eco-claims or hide information about durability and repairability without consequences.
So no more slapping eco-friendly on everything without backing it up.
Exactly. Transparency and accountability are non-negotiable. Companies need to be able to back up their sustainability claims with solid evidence.
This levels the playing field, giving a real advantage to companies genuinely committed to sustainability.
Precisely. Consumers will be able to see through empty promises and reward companies walking the walk. But implementing these new rules across the entire EU will come with challenges.
Like what?
Well, for one, ensuring consistent enforcement across all 27 member states is key.
Okay.
National authorities need to coordinate their efforts and interpret the rules in the same way.
And we're talking about a huge amount of information to monitor. How will they keep track of all the environmental claims and sustainability labels out there?
It's a massive task.
Yeah.
Verifying compliance requires robust monitoring mechanisms and resources. But the EU knows this and is already taking steps to address it. They're developing something called a digital product passport.
A digital product passport, what is that?
It's essentially a digital record containing information about a product's entire life cycle.
Interesting.
The materials used, its environmental impact, repairability, even how to recycle it. It's like a product's DNA all in one place.
So I could scan a code on, say, my coffee machine and get the full rundown of its sustainability story.
Exactly. This transparency is great for consumers and helps businesses make more sustainable choices.
This deep dive has covered a lot. But even with all these positive changes, one question keeps coming back to me.
What's on your mind?
Well, this agreement seems really focused on making things last longer, which is great.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, could this focus on the physical lifespan of a product make us overlook another part of sustainability? The digital lifespan.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
We often think of digital products as almost immortal, but you're right, that's not always how it works out.
Right, like software, our devices slow down, apps stop working.
Right.
It's like a digital version of planned obsolescence.
Exactly. And that pushes us to buy new devices, even if the old ones still physically work.
Which brings us right back to overconsumption.
Mm.
Even with durable products, if we constantly have to upgrade because of software issues, are we really being sustainable?
It's a good question. We need to think about a product's digital lifespan, along with durability and repairability.
So how long will the software be supported? Are upgrades even possible? Can I move my data to a new device?
Right.
Especially with everything about data privacy these days.
Absolutely. And it's not just software. Think about data storage.
Yeah.
We have so many photos, videos, documents. What happens to all of that when a device dies?
It's like our digital lives are at stake. We're so focused on physical stuff lasting longer. But what about making sure our data doesn't just disappear?
You've hit on a really important point. It seems like we've uncovered a whole other layer of complexity when it comes to sustainable consumption.
Which is what the deep dive is all about, right? We unpack the complexities, explore the nuances, and sometimes end up with even more questions. Exactly. And that's okay. It's all about encouraging critical thinking. These are the kinds of conversations we need to be having about sustainability.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners to ponder this idea of a digital lifespan. How can we make sure our devices and our data have a future as we move towards a more sustainable world? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.